Hey everybody, I am just going to explain some things about constraints and try to clear some stuff up, and hopefully this will help. The first constraint I'm going to do is just a simple constraint, and I'm going to constrain this object which is already rigged, and then we're going to constrain an object that's not rigged, and then it's just a piece of geometry that often happens when we are animating, and that's all we have. But let's do the rigged version. We have a rigged Colt 45 gun, and what we're going to end up doing, I've already created a selection set for these with the Animbot tools. So I can select this right here, and it moves around freely. If I select the arm, you'll see that it's not selected. It's not constraint. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have the arm be the master and the gun will be the slave. That's the thing that's going to be constrained to the hand. So the hand has a choice. You have a choice to either be in FK or IK, so it doesn't really matter at this point because the hand is going to drive the action. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the master. So off screen, I have a picker, so I'm just going to show you the picker here. This is the picker for body, and I'm going to choose the FK wrist right here as my object. And let's just move this out of the way. And if I could just get it there. Okay, so that is my master, and then I'm going to shift select and click on the Colt 45. Now this is also assuming that you have done your modeling of the hand, sculpting of the fingers, etc., so that it fits perfectly to the gun. All right, now this is a proxy version, so it's not going to be completely accurate. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. So we have this gun, and let me just get rid of this cube and bring it out of the way. Let's see. Okay. So so now that we have those two things selected, you can always double check on the outliner to be sure that you have both of those things selected. All right. Okay, and then we're just going to go into the constraint tool. That means you have to be in animation mode. We go into constraint, and then we go parent. And just to be sure, we want to make sure that we have the offset maintained. If I don't have that offset maintained, this is what's going to happen. It's going to adjust and fit exactly the same rotation and translation as the pivot that's on the wrist. So we really don't want that. So I'm just going to undo this. And then I'm going to make sure that this is maintained offset. Okay. So let's make sure that I have both things selected again. Check on the outliner. I have to reselect the Colt 45. Okay, so I have the two things selected, and I'm going to press apply. Now it's selected with the offset, and if I move the wrist again, and I just select the wrist, I'm selecting this off screen, it should now work. Now the nice thing about having a rig that is set up correctly is that it should have an offset built into it. So as you can see here, there's the Colt 45 master and the Colt 45 main. If we look on the outliner and we press F to find it, that's not it. We can see that it's rigged with these two main controls. There are other controls here, which we don't really need to be concerned about. I don't know what that is, the trommel. Maybe it's the trigger. But these two are doing exactly the same, the main and the offset. So what I ended up doing is constraining it to the main, and that means that if I wanted to, I can offset it slightly, so I can put a little bit of a rotation on here. I could, let's say, if he wants to do a little twirl with the finger or something like that, some extra animation, I can do that without being concerned that it's going to be locked onto that hand. So what, if you can see that I have now offset this with the offset control, and if I move the hand again, you'll see that it moves with the offset. So it's really handy, and this is how most rigs should be built, always with an offset, sometimes 3 offsets, so that you can use them for various constraints. So to explain that phenomena just a little bit more, I'm going to select the main here. This is what I constrained to the hand, and if I move it over here and offset it in the same way I did with the offset, you'll notice that once I go into the rotation of the wrist again, it's really going to snap back, and I can't really maintain that offset because this is the thing that's permanently locked onto that hand like Velcro and will never let go until you release it once you set a key. Okay. Yeah, and to talk about that, let's talk about that real briefly. If I were to set a key on here with the Colt 45, let's just select both of these and set a key here. Now, if we go to the main, what actually happens is that it creates this extra field here, this extra channel, and it's automatically set at 0. So now if I wanted to move the hand again, you'll notice that it's not working anymore. That constraint did not work. That's because it's not set to the constraint. Okay, so if I set a key, you'll see that it creates this extra field, and then we have to change this to 1. I should also set a key here too, because it's not automatically keyed, so we can right-click and key selected, and then we can press 1 here, and now that that's happened, we can now regain our constraint, and it will now be back again according to how we sculpted this. So now I'm going to try to show you how it works when you don't have a rigged subject or object, and we have this cube right here, and it's freely moving around. It is not constrained. If I take the FK wrist of the Bonnie rig, you'll see that it's not connected. So we could, if we wanted to, do the standard Maya constraint system where we select the hand as the slave, and then we can select the cube, I'm sorry, the hand as the master and the cube as the slave, and then we go into constraint and we can parent it according to what we just did before. The only problem is, like the gun, it's going to be locked to that hand, and there's going to be no offsets at all. You can't do that. So we have to create one. One of the things that we can do to do that is we have to create a group. So if we select the cube itself, just itself, and we click on the keyboard, Control G, you'll notice that it creates a group here in the outliner. And it's probably best to rename it, and we'll just call this book group, and you can name it whatever you'd like. And you'll notice that it's now, the actual geometry is a child of this group. Okay. Okay, so that was not supposed to be there. That's something I created before, so I'm just going to delete that. So this is what you're going to see. And so what we're end up going to doing is doing the same kind of constraint, but we're going to constraint to the book group rather than the cube. So we're going to click on the wrist. I'm going to click on Bonnie's left FK wrist, and I'm going to control click on the book group right here, and then I'm going to do the constraint parent, right? So we have this, again, we're going to do maintain offset, and we're going to press apply. Okay, so now if I move the wrist just by itself, and I move it, you'll see that it's constrained. Nice thing is, now that we've created that offset, I can click on the book itself, and it's right here. And we can rename this as well. We can call this book Geo. And then you'll see that we can sort of move this around and do whatever we'd like to it. We can flip it, rotate it. So let's say we do something like this. You'll see that if I move the wrist again, it's going to be now maintained and offset to that. So a lot of the times you'll download rigs that don't have, actually they're not rigs, they're just going to download sets and object files that are not rigged at all. They don't have those double masters and offsets already built into it. And this is a quick way to add that extra offset that you need if you need so. All right. Okay, so on this example, we want Bonnie to lift this heavy barbell up, and the constraints are going to be slightly different. So there's a couple ways you could have done it, but I think this is the best way. What you could have done is have the barbell being driven, let's say, by the right hand or the left hand. So if, let's say, you had the right hand or arm driving the barbell, then you would constrain the barbell to the right hand, and then that right hand could be either FK or IK, just like in the Colt 45 gun that we used. This one, however, if we did it that way, that means the left hand would have to be in IK, and then the IK would have to be constrained to the barbell. So it's a more complicated rig structure that we have to do, constraint structure. So I think the best way to do that is actually to constrain both hands, put both hands in IK, and then have the IK hands be constrained to the barbell, and the barbell is the one that's going to drive the behavior of the hands. And it feels a little bit unintuitive because we're actually moving the barbell, when in reality, if we were to do this in real life, we would be the ones moving the barbell instead of the other way around. But we're creating this illusion, and for the constraint system, this is the best way to go about it. Okay, so we have to be careful about what we're going to do and what we're going to pick as our moving barbell part in order to move the arms. We have to be very careful about what we're going to use. So I basically want a rotation that's been displayed by this control. So I want her just to push it up like this, and she's doing some shoulder exercises, and this is all that she needs to do. We still have some offsets, because if you notice on the outliner, it's right up here in the outliner, it's here in the hierarchy, and then we still have these as offsets if we want to make some slight other adjustments. That's the kind of only the trade-off that we have here. So we can make some slight adjustments if we need to, but I'm anticipating that in this piece of animation that we wouldn't really need that. So the best one to use would be this one as the motivating movement. So we're going to select this as our master, and then we're going to select the IK hands as our slave. So I've selected this, right? We see that, and then I'm going to select off screen. I'm going to select this, on the picker, the IK for the right hand. So you can see that this is selected and this is selected. And basically, I'm just going to go into the constraint and just do a parent constraint. And if it's already set up with the offset, we're all good. I can just click apply here. And now if I move this, that arm is going to go with it, as you see here. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing with the other arm. So we're going to choose this once again, and we're going to choose as the slave the IK hand. We already have this up here. We're going to click apply, maintain offset, and voila. Okay, so now if I move it, both arms are moving with it. Okay, so now here's the thing. What about the hands? Are they going to be completely glued onto this? There are no offsets on the hands now, because now if we move this completely into, let's say, another position, and I take these IK hands and let's say I wanted to offset them and move them, and let's say I want to adjust it and put her hand over here, will that work? Well, let's test it out. No, it's going to pop right back. So we have no offset on this hand at all. But the nice thing about the Bonnie rig, and most rigs should have this, and not all of them do, is that it has an offset built right inside of it. So if I choose the alternative, which is the one called arm wrist IK sub control, that's what this particular rigger named it. I can now offset this if I want to and put it here. And now if I were to move the barbell once again, it's now maintaining that new offset, which can come in really handy. So for instance, if we were to start off this way and we start animating it, I'll show you how that can come in handy. Okay, so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to create some animation. So that means I'm going to, of course, select all. So once it selects all, I'm going to set a key here on frame 1. And we have now set a key. And we also want to make sure that we select all of the barbell. So I'm going to select the barbell. I made a selection set in Animbot, and I'm going to also create a key there. Now, the thing you'll notice is, once again, like I showed you before, that once you start setting keys, and barbell is not, okay, that's set, that's set, okay. Once you start setting keys, and I go into the IK hand where it's been Constraint Tool, we notice that it created another field and it created a blend parent, and there is no animation on it. It's not set to a key and it's at 0. So if we were to move this, it's no longer constraint and the hands are not following it. So we really have to go back and set a key, and then also I can right click and set a key here and then turn this on the 1, and you'll notice now that if I rotate this again, it's going to follow. Okay, let's do the same thing for the other hand. We're going to choose the IK we're going to create a key, and we're going to click this on 1. So now we're back in business, and we can now move it accordingly. So let's say I'm going to select the barbell, and I want to select the other controls too here. I'm going to make sure that I select all the controls. And okay, I have the ones that I want, and I'm going to set a key there. Now, let's say we're going to move to frame 15 and set a key here. That's where I want her to lift it. And of course, I'm going to go into the body, and I'm going to select all the keys there and set a key there as well. Okay. So at this point, I want her to push. So this is going to rotate up and take the arms with it. So she's rotating it this way, and then she's leaning into it. So I'm going to take the upper body, or in this case it's called the COG, center of gravity, and I'm going to move it forward. And I'm going to move it up. And let's say she gets a really nice stretch. Really working out those deltoids, like so, and it's doing that. Let's get a nice stretch in there. Oh, so for some reason we don't have a key on here, so you'll see that we missed this key. So I'm just going to put this back to where it was, somewhere around here. So we're going to go from here to here, and that's her lift, right? So let's say she's at this point, and then you want to adjust that hand. You want it to get it underneath because she wants to do maybe some other exercise. So let's take on frame 25. I'm going to select all. And I'm also going to shift select this part right here for sure. And then I'll just select these as well. And I'm going to set a key there. Okay. So now I want to move that hand, but I'm going to use the sub control hand. And on the picker, if I can just sort of bring us down to you, it's right here. Okay. So let's bring this back up again. So you can see it's called the wrist IK sub control. So I'm going to take that control and I'm going to bring it down. And of course, I'm going to take a much more time and I'm really sculpting the fingers, etc. But this is sort of to get you the idea of how the constraints are working. So let's say she wants to get a little bit underneath it, and maybe let's turn it to the side a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to click on here, and I'm rotate it a little bit this way, maybe rotate it this way. And if I wanted to, I can even take some of these offsets and make an adjustment and do whatever I want with that. And it won't take the hand with it too. So you can adjust it in several different ways. But the only problem is I didn't have a key set on it. So that's why it's really important to select all on everything. If I set a key here, and then I go back to frame 15, I'll just set it back to 0 to its original position right there. And go back to here. So you really need to have a select all button for the barbell as well, which I didn't do. So here's the animation. It's push, and there's an adjustment. So maybe that adjustment could have happened, let's say on frame 20. So let's select all again. And I just want to make sure I want to select this. I want to select all of Bonnie. And I want to just copy and paste that to here. And then I want to get that arm first underneath. So that arm was supposed to go here. So she adjusts the arm and then she moves it like this. So it's going to basically do this. She adjusts the arm and then moves it to the side. So that's kind of an idea of how you would set up that constraint with a rig that gives you the offset. Now I'm going to show you on the next example with a rig that doesn't give you that sub control, and then you have to kind of create that one yourself. I'll be right back. All right. So with this, I'm going to do something similar that we did with the barbell. I'm going to lift this heavy object up, and his arms are going to be both in IK, as is with Bonnie in the barbell example. He's going to lift it up, and then he's going to adjust his hand, and then he's going to walk across the screen. So there's going to be an extra constraint put on top of that as well. Okay, and then the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use a scripted version that's giving with MG tools with the anim constraint tool, which adds an extra offset. All right, so let's get started. First of all, we have this rig, and it is not constrained, as you can see. Nothing is moving the arms. Arms are in IK. So what I'm going to do right now is constrain the arms to the box. One of the first things I'm going to do is going to select the master, and I'm going to select the slave. But the difference is I'm going to use this anim constraint tool in order to create that constraint. I'm going to show you what happens in the outliner so that you can see the process. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and constrain the right arm. And as we move this, we can see that is now being constrained. Now, I'm also using a rig for the box, and it has two controls, one for the master and one for the box, moving it around. So this could be considered as an offset. So I'm using this as it's a little bit further down the hierarchy. So here's the master control right over here, and then this is the offset node. I'm going to constrain the hands to this offset node because I'm going to use this one later, and I'm going to constrain that one to the hips so that when he moves across the screen, the box will follow. So that's the theory. All right, so let's get the other arm done. So I'm going to, again, select the offset node here, and then I'm going to shift select and click on the left IK hand. And then I'm going to use this anim constraint tool, which actually scripts and gives me that offset. So the trick is trying to find where that offset is. So the offset is actually right here, and what it did was created a group, created a locator, and then made the constraint. Okay, so what I want to do next is click on that locator offset, and then just increase the size of it so that we can start to see it. You can see it grow right over here. That way it's easy to pick in the viewer. And I'm going to do the same thing with the left hand. I'm going to click on that and increase the size of that so that we can pick on it easy. All right, so now that we have this, we can move it around, and we have a perfect constraint system happening here. And if I wanted to, I can click on that locator and move it down. Whoops, that's not the locator, is it? Here's the locator. That must be another locator. So I can move it down here, and then if I move it, it's going to be nicely offsetted and will stay there. So I don't know where this locator is. I don't think I need it. That's from an old So I can just delete this because I really don't need that. And is there another one? Okay, if I find one, I'll delete that one as well. I think this one's still good. Yeah, that one's good. All right, so so let's kind of do some animation. One of the things we have to do is we got to select all. Right, we have to select all for the whole character, and then we have to select these locators as well, and we have to select all the box. So if we want to retime anything, we must have a select all for everything. So we can use the animbot for that. And let me just get this out of the way. And make a little, let's get my animbot happening here. I want to make this little selection set that will create an all button so that I don't have to constantly select everything until I get everything done. So let's get this happening. Close this. Close this. I'm going to select all my controls off screen. I'm going to select the all on the picker for the George Stevens character. I'm going to select all the box, and then I'm going to go into outliner, and I'm going to select these locators as well. Control click. So that should be a button for all. I'm going to go into this quick selection set tool here, and I'm going to add another one, and we'll give it a color. Let's get a different color here. How about this one? Whoops. Okay, select all, and I just want to rename it and call it all box hero and locators. So that way I know what it is. Okay, that's just for my own understanding, so I can separate them from all. I know what this means. Okay, so if I click off of it and then click on it, I should have everything selected. So I'm going to set a key here in the beginning. So I've set a key there, and I want him to stand up on frame 15. So I'm going to click on frame 15 and set a key. And I'm going to start posing him out. But first, before I do that, I want to make sure that the locators, because right now I have a feeling that if I click on this, it's not constrained. Oh, it's still constrained. That's fantastic. The issue would be that if I click on here, we're going to make sure that the parenting is on 1. Okay. So you have to check. Sometimes it's on 0, sometimes it's on 1, but we're going to make sure that we're on 1. Okay, so now it's still connected. We're doing okay. All right, so I'm going to take the upper body or the root of George Stevens. I'm going to straighten him out. I have him bend just a little bit back. And then I'm going to take this control and bring it up. Maybe put a little rotation on it. Okay, so he has it up to that point. Oh, actually, I wanted that on frame 15, so I'm going to copy that over to frame 15 and then bring this back down. That means I should select all, actually. I'll just kind of select everything, set it back there, and kind of reverse the process here a little bit. Get him back into that starting position. could have pressed undo, but I can do it this way. Actually, I can put all the rotations at 0. And that should make that go straight. I'll put this over here. And then bring him down. Okay, so that's his starting position. And then he's going to go up like this. Then he's going to bend backwards. Let's put that on frame 20. Select all. Set a key. Go back to the root or upper body. Let's bend him backwards like this. And bring up the cereal box, rotate it, bring it in, check it from both sides. Okay, looks pretty good. Looks like he's having a hard time here. We need to help him out a little bit. Let's move his head so that it doesn't look so squashed. Okay, I'm going to select all again. And actually, that was sort of the last pose. I kind of wanted to get another pose in here. So I'm just going to copy and paste that over here. And this one, I am going to go back here, copy and paste that one here. And then I'm going to slightly make an adjustment of that. What happened? Okay. Oh, it works. Okay, fine. So that's the exact same pose. And I just wanted to adjust that hand. So this is where I'm going to take that locator and I'm going to bring it down so that he makes that adjustment. So he gets a better grip and it's a little bit out here. Of course, if I were to do this, I'm doing a very rough version of it. So I'm not really sculpting the hands very well. I don't want to spend the time doing that, but they should be completely done well so that they look perfectly aligned with the box and the poses are, and I'm just going to rough it out right now so that would be a good hand pose that is making good contact with the box. But for demonstration purposes, I don't feel like I really need to do that. I'm going to bring that pole vector in just a little bit. Make it go like that, bring it behind because it should be behind the elbow. All right, so now he's got a better grasp on this. Maybe I'll bring the elbow down here. And then again, I can adjust this because if it feels a little broken, I can rotate this hand up like this. I don't know what happened to the fingers there, but that would be fixed. Okay, so he's going from here to here, right? From here to here. So he's getting a better grip on it. So maybe slightly starts to roll back. And then this one starts to come up a little bit. Like so. Put this like this. So here so far, this is my keys. I got standing up, making an adjustment, and then coming back. So this hand should be here now. So what I can do is I can select that hand by using the locator and then just middle mouse button, click, copy and paste. And it should be fine. Yeah. So it comes down and then he does that. Okay, so that's working pretty good. Oh, we have to do the same thing on this hand. So we're going to select that locator and then get this hand, shifts, middle mouse button, click and copy paste, set a key there.
And that rotation should now be right. Okay. All right. All right. So now we're going to move him across the screen. He's going to take a couple steps. So I'm going to select all. And I say, let's see, 29, 30, 37 would be one step. So that's like a 12 frame step. We can set a key there. And so at this point, around 25, I'm going to now take this as my master, and that's the upper body. And I'm going to take the other control of the box here, and I am going to constrain that. I could use the anim constraint to give me an extra offset if I wanted to, if I have anim tools. If you don't have anim tools, we can just do a regular constraint with that. So let me switch this to animation, and then we get the constraint. And I can just do a regular parent constraint. One thing, I'm going to make sure that the maintain offset is still on, and I'm going to press apply. Okay, so now I have the root offset. Blend parent, in this case, it's on 1, which is good. We need to set a key here, and probably need to turn it off on the other keys because we don't want it to be constrained at that point. So I'm going to go back, select one of these other keys. I'm just going to go back here and then just make sure that that's set a key there. Oops, set a key there and turn that to 0. Okay. And so there'll be a little bit of a blend here, but I think it's going to work. If not, we can make that blend happen in 1 frame, and we just have to find a good place for that to happen. Maybe we could put it here. I don't think, let's see. So it moves over there. Yeah, so maybe let's put this as, set that key there and make this one. Would that make a difference? Oh no, it goes back down again, so that might not be a good idea. So let's delete that. Well, we can worry about that later once we start polishing this up. Okay, so now the nice thing about this is that if I start to move him with the root control, select the root, I can now make him go forward, and he's going to have that automatically be carried with him. That way we don't have to constantly update this position of the box to match the body, right? So we want it to go over here, and at frame 37, he's going to move forward and he's going to take a step. So let's put the body over here, and let's say he steps with his right foot. So I'm going to select the right foot, and I'm going to translate it in Z space, and so he's making that step, and I'm just going to do a little bit of a foot roll there, and then a foot roll on the back foot. Okay, so now he's stepping forward, and if I do another 12 frames, I'm going to select all, set a key, and then I'll do the next step. That means the left foot is going to go forward. Is that the left foot? It shouldn't be. That's the right foot. I clicked the wrong one. And basically, it needs to go in the same distance. So it's around that far. So roughly around here, I want it to go. So it's going to be there. Foot roll is going to change to this. Probably needs to go out a little bit further. Okay, and then I'll adjust this. Make this go further here. And then foot roll Okay, so let's compare the two. Get this one. And this one. So this might come back just a little bit. Okay, so see, you can see that he's moving around quite nicely. And if we were to do here, let's say that was the passing position. Let's say over here, this is the passing position right around here. I'm going to set a key on everything here, right? And maybe let's make that the up position of the body. And let's see, where is it? Click on the upper body. Okay, and voila, here it is. Let's say he's moving up. I'm just exaggerating because I want to show you what you can do as far as the offsets. So let's go back to the, I want to isolate the translate Y and look at that. So you can see that he's moving up here. And let's make all these, yeah, and move this down so we can see a little bit more of the up and down part. And just for the heck of it, we'll put it down here. This has got to be auto tangent, so just put that back. All right, so he's down and up and back down again. So right around here, this is the great thing about having offsets all the time. Right before he comes up, here he's coming down, so there might be a little bit of a up on the box. So you can just kind of make an adjustment there. And as he's coming down, right, let's try to get this right. So he's coming down, and then he's coming back up. And as he's, let's take a look at that. Let me select that in the box, and I just want to take a look at the, just the Y's. Here we go. So this is the, where is it? That George Stevens. That's George Stevens, right? Okay, so this is the Y, and it's coming back up. So it's coming down. The box is coming down. Just, yeah, this is the box right here. And then comes back up again. So it's basically doing this, but it's going to be a little bit late. I'm just going, just for, I mean, this is really quick. I would obviously refine this a little bit. Maybe by 2 frames, it has a little bit of an offset. So you can get the feeling of some of that weight shift, the weight being used in here. And it's probably too exaggerated a little bit. Where is that? No, it's up. Okay. Okay. And then it probably comes back down again. Something like that. I mean, obviously, we have to really go into figure out what the that overlap is going to look like. I'm really roughing it out here, but the issue is, or the point is, that you can do it if you have an offset on here, because on the hierarchy in the outliner, if you can see here, that this is what's constrained to the root. Now I cannot offset with this because this one's locked to the root. It's married. It won't. It's unless I turn off the parenting. I cannot move that box at all with this control. However, I have free reign with this offset control, so I can move this anywhere I want, and it's not, and the hands will follow it because the hands are attached to this root, to this control, so which is nice. So now I can just do all this extra overlapping action with this control, and the hands will follow, which is really nice. So if you don't have this, you have to create this on a box. So if you're creating a box and you want this, you're going to have to either rig it this way or use that method that we did with the book here in the same manner, and then you would create a group, and then you would attach the group to the hips or the center of gravity or the upper body, which is what it's called here with the iAnimate rig. Okay, so now, yeah, so that's basically it. He's walking across the screen. Now he has this big box with him, and with the minimal amount of work, we almost have this animated for us. We're just using a few constraints and using the offsets. We have pretty much full control about what we want to do with this piece of animation. Okay? All right. Thanks a lot. Hope this helps.
Okay. I am back, and this time we're going to do a different setup, and we're going to create our own offsets just in case we don't have the MG tools or a scripted version to create our offsets for us. Okay? So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to create a locator. We create a locator under Create Locator, and what will happen is it'll create a locator in 000 space, okay, in the universe, and that will be right over here. And we're going to rename this locator. Okay, so here's the next setup. We're not going to use a scripted constraint system. We're going to create our own. But here we have the box, no longer constrained, it's free, no more constraints on anything. So what we want to do is set up the same similar system that we had with the MG tools, but we're going to create our own. So one of the first things that we have to do is create a locator, and that's going to create a locator in the center. You'll notice that you don't really see the locator, and if we go here, we see it on the outliner, but let's just increase the size of that locator so we can obviously see it. And we're just going to rename it. And we're going to constrain the right hand to this locator eventually. So we want to call this something that we can identify it very easily. So let's just call it right hand locator. Now, right after that, we're going to group it, and we're going to keep everything in the origin because we want to keep everything at 000. So we just Control-G on the keyboard. That's what I'm clicking right now, Control-G, and it's creating a group. Let's rename that. Call this right hand locator. Okay. So now if we move the group, we're actually moving both the locator as well. If I move the locator, it doesn't move the group is still here. And we can see that when I start moving the group around, it's offset. So let's keep everything back at 000. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to constrain the group to the box. So the idea is that I'm going to constrain the group to the box, and then I'm going to constrain the IK hands to the locator. And the locator is the thing that I'm going to use to move that hand as an offset like we did in the earlier example. So what I'm going to do first is going to click on the group, and I am going to snap it and constrain it to the inside of the box. So I need a place for it to go. So I'm going to click on here, and this is going to be the master of the group. Thing is, I want to make sure that I maintain the offset off. I want to keep all these translates and rotates on. So when I click apply, it's going to snap right to this same place right over here. So I press apply. Whoops, I did not select the group. So I need to do that again. I need to select this as the master and then this as the group. And then I click on apply, and it should snap right to the middle. Okay, so the next step is to click on the locator, and I want to constrain this to the locator. So this is the master, this is the control. This time, I just keep I want the maintain offset off, but I'm going to take the rotation off because all I really care about is that translation space to be there. Or do I? That's a good question. No, I think I want both of them on. Okay, so when I rotate the box, it's also going to rotate. So I'm going to press apply, and it's going to snap to the middle. Then what I'm going to do is click on the locator, and I'm going to reposition it back to where it was. You can notice that the arm hand is a little bit off, so we have to sort of readjust that. The reason why we want to snap it is that because we want this locator to be in the exact same position as the wrist. So I'm just going to reconfigure the wrist to get back to where we were before. And let's just, for the heck of it, change that pole vector. A better spot. There we go. And we're going to use the locator as our means to move around the wrist, okay? So that locator now is the control for the wrist. So you could conceivably want to add a, let's choose another color. Let's change that, let's change that to this color. And we're going to call this right hand locator. Boom. Whoops, that already exists. Let's call it locator 2. And that already exists for some reason. Okay. Oh, all right. Well, we'll just use this, and then so now we have it easily accessible, or we can just go on the timeline and click it here, or we can click it here because it's pretty obvious where it is. Either way. So now you'll see that once I move this part, it's going to follow. And then you would do the same with the other hand as well. Okay, so the idea is that the group is constrained to the box, the locator is constrained to the group, and the hand itself is constrained to the locator. So if I have this up here, and then I want to offset that arm, and I want that arm to go down, I could click on the arm, and I could, the wrong axis here, I can click on that arm and just bring it down here. here. So let's say he adjusts his hand this way. Make sure it's all in there good. Something like that. So now that's the new offset, and I can move this with the offset, and it's going to stay there. Right, just like we did with the other demonstration with the MG tools. And then, of course, you could go and do the same thing. If we bring this up and we want him to start walking, then we would make that same kind of constraint system with the box. Let's just sort of straighten them out of here a little bit. We'll bring that box up here. And whoops. Bring that box up there. Okay. Always a good idea to save. Let's save at this point. And same thing. I'm going to take this and I'm going to, actually I'm going to use this as the master because I want the box now to follow, and I want to maintain offset on this time. So I want to follow the root. So wherever the root goes, the box will go. So I'm going to press apply, and then if I move the root, let's just select the root. It now should follow. And then we can use the same system we did for offsetting, because this can still offset. If I want to bring it down here, then I move the root again, it'll maintain that offset. Okay, well, I hope this helps. Thanks for having the patience to sit through this. It's pretty tough to try to understand all the little concepts, but if you go over this a couple times and use additional other methods, other teaching methods, go online and it'll just reinforce what you're learning here today. Sometimes it's good to hear it from a couple different sources, and that way it becomes more set in your own mind how to do it. Okay? All right, guys, thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you soon.